Welcome to 18th Century Cooking. My name is John Townsend, and today we're doing a very interesting episode on 18th century imitation coffee. While researching for another episode, I ran into this very interesting little paragraph. It's from John Houghton in 1694. Let me read it to you. He's talking about wheat here, using the wheat berries. He says, "Some roast it as they do coffee, and therewith make a drink in imitation thereof. And this, I am told, was not used only in private houses, but in the late scarcity of coffee in some more ordinary coffee houses." So here he is in the late 1600s, and he's explaining imitation coffee, what coffee houses, or maybe more commonly in private houses, what they were doing when they couldn't get a hold of coffee and they wanted that same kind of flavor. Well, let's see what it turns out like. We're gonna make some just like that. I'm gonna start off here with maybe about 2/3 of a cup of wheat berries. If you don't have wheat berries, you can go to your local health food store. You'll probably find them there. And I'm gonna use one of our little frying pans, and we'll roast these over an open fire just like we would do coffee beans. So roasting these is just like roasting the coffee beans. And if you want more information about that, make sure to check out the campfire coffee episode that we did. As you cook them, as you get them warmed up over the fire, you want to keep them stirring. And if you watch these first stages, they'll start to pop, a bit like popcorn. Again, keep them stirring. If they get too hot, bring them off the fire a little bit. I'm getting them a little too, some of them too brown, another one not brown enough, so I'm going to back this off a little bit, let it cool off. Well, I don't know exactly how far I want to go with these, but these look really good and nice and dark. I mean, it could be that we'd go a little bit further, but there's some that are very dark. I think it's going to have, it's just a little past burnt smell, which is kind of what you get when you're roasting coffee. When it smells like, oh, you might have ruined it, you're probably about there. So let's stop with these, and we'll let these cool off. I'm going to spread them out on a plate. Now that our beans are cooled off, we can go ahead and pop them into our grinder and grind them up. There seems to be as many different ways to make coffee in the 18th century as there are today. This coffee recipe is from John Houghton's book, his Cook's Dictionary in 1733, and he says to simply boil your water and then pour in your coffee, a couple of ounces, and let it boil until the grounds fall to the bottom, or I guess until they stop frothing at the top. So I'm just going to let this boil for a minute or two, and then take it off and let it infuse and let the grounds settle. Well, this definitely has an interesting smell. There's still a grainy overtone to it, but it definitely has a bit of a coffee kind of an aroma to it. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Let me taste this. I'm not a big coffee drinker, but let me taste this without any additives like sugar or milk to see what it tastes like just all by itself. Wow, I can definitely see where people would get a coffee idea out of this. This might have stayed a little bit too long on the grounds. It's feeling maybe a little bit bitter, but that's what I generally think about coffee too. So let me try sweetening this up and adding a little bit of sugar. It's so interesting. I really encourage you to give this a try.